Today is a beautiful day, and we are delighted to see everyone that is present with us on this wonderful day of honor and celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. We would like to welcome you to our first Pendel's first MLK Day speaker series. When we think of the most recent current events that have transpired over the past few months and even weeks, what better time to get together and have a conversation on the topic of social justice than today? MLK states that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. As we begin our session today, let us open our hearts and minds to having courageous conversations filled with honesty, transparency, and hope to move forward in the direction of equality and equity for all. Our day will begin with our first guest speaker, Sarah Ashley Andrews, followed by Breakout Sessions, which will be led by Ms. Lise Metellus, Ms. Megan Olson, Ms. Cheyenne Corinne, former Penndale and North Penn alum, who currently works at WDVM 25 as a news reporter in Maryland, and Mr. Nick Taylor, assistant principal at North Penn High School. We will end with our second guest speaker, W. Douglas Banks. Sarah Ashley Andrews was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She has a bachelor's degree in biblical studies and a master's degree in counseling psychology. In 2013, she founded the nonprofit organization Dare to Hope, which is dedicated to conquering suicide in youth and young adults. To date, Sarah Ashley's organization has educated nearly 4,500 people on suicide awareness. Her most recent initiative, I Dare to Be, is a program that educates students on the importance of living mentally well, anger management, conflict resolution, and staying true to yourself. Sarah Ashley is also a published author. She released Move Making Monday, a Monday motivation book in November of 2019. She has also helped to feed over 2,500 homeless people in Philadelphia, and she has given an ultimate Christmas to over 550 at-risk youth in Philadelphia as well. She also has a podcast titled Black in Therapy. The next voice you will hear will be none other than Sarah Ashley Andrews. Take it away, Ash.
Thank you, Dana, for that introduction. And thank you all for the opportunity to be with you all today on this Dr. Martin Luther King Day to share with you a brief little message that I wrote. So thank you again. As I sat in my laptop trying to figure out what I would speak to you all about today, my conscience however, would not let me talk about anything except the current state of America as it is today. Thinking about what is social justice. Social justice is simply the fight for equality, equal rights. On this day, on this 18th day of January, we celebrate the most influential social justice advocate ever, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His life was one of hope and peace. He gave us the blueprint of how to fight for social justice. So I look back over the history of America and I begin to write. On July 4th, 1776, the pronouncement of the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. In part, it claims to hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Dr. King once stated in his speech that Black Americans have the unique task of navigating this schizophrenic yet to be United States of America. How could Dr. King make such a statement? We can start with reviewing those words deposited on July 4th, 1776, in which Black Americans to this day still can't make a withdrawal on. Those founding fathers who in 1776 talked about equality and freedom, full well knowing that there were still enslaved Black Americans. In fact, those enslaved Black Americans still would not be free until June 19th, 1865. Yes, I said June 19th instead of the January date of the Emancipation Proclamation, because all slaves weren't free until June 19th of 1865. But then again, slaves weren't considered to be citizens anyway. The United States wrote a bad check then, and it continues to do so today. We could still challenge what it means to be free throughout history. In 1896, we were separate but equal. That is when the Jim Crow laws began to show themselves strong in the southern states. In the 1920s, brought the Harlem Renaissance, in which Black people prospered. However, we saw the demolishment of Black Wall Street in which all Black businesses were burnt to the ground. The Montgomery Bus Boycott in the 50s, along with the Little Rock Nine, who integrated the public school system. And even though they integrated the public school system in the 50s, in 1993, I found myself trying to navigate and integrate a school in Center City, Philadelphia, being pulled out of my classroom because I did not fit what they thought was the student that should go to their school. I was asked where I lived and how did my parents afford for me to go to this particular school. So even in the 90s, I was still dealing with situations and residue from the 50s. In the 60s, we had the young people sitting in at lunch counters for the right to eat when and where they wanted to. The Albany, Georgia movement was birthed in 61 with hopes of ending all forms of racial segregation in the city. Just 2 years later, the fight for freedom continued in Birmingham, Alabama, with the hopes of again desegregating the state. Though they may have won that battle in Birmingham, they lost some other battles during that time. 4 little girls lost their life in a bombing at a church that was often the headquarters or meeting place for organizers. The remaining survivor, she lost her vision and her sisters. We would look at marches in Selma, which called for discrimination at the polls to be abolished and for Black Americans to have the true right to vote. One could say, well, Sarah Ashley, that was then. Black Americans are free now. They're equal. They have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I challenge that thought too, because the truth is for Black Americans, 156 years later, after the Emancipation Proclamation, we still are not free. The check that was written in 1776 and then again in 1865, in Dr. King's own words, have continued to come back to Black Americans as insufficient funds. We can't do much of any of that, any type of living or pursuing of happiness, because any type of living or happiness that we pursue seems to be deemed as a crime simply because the color of our skin, punishable by death. Trayvon couldn't walk home from his father's house from the store. Bachman John couldn't eat ice cream on his couch. Tatiana Jefferson couldn't play video games with her nephew. Ahmaud Arbery couldn't go for a jog. Breonna Taylor could not sleep in her bed. Rashad could not sleep off his drunkenness. Jacob Blake could not break up a fight. Keon Harold Jr. could not exit a hotel lobby with his father without being accused of a crime. We have the deck stacked up against us, and our starting line systemically 10 steps back from other races. We have sat back and watched other people get reparations down to the very slave owners who lost revenue after slavery was abolished. We've been required to push through systemic racism, oppression, suppression, poverty, and hatred, somehow with the expectation that we better not show up as angry Black people. On May 25th, 2020, we watched a Black man cry out for his mom as an officer kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And we were expected to show up in Zoom calls and interact with people the next day as if nothing happened. And the fact of the matter is that we did. On June 6th, we watched a domestic terror attack unfold right before our eyes. And all we could do was really think that if that was us. We are being told now by our leaders to keep our heads on a swivel because we don't know what the next attack will look like. But there is something about the gift that our ancestors gave us that allows us the fortitude to gracefully show up in spite of what we've been going through. In the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health, the author states that weeping may endure for a night, and whether joy comes in the morning or not, it is still time for us to move on. Could you imagine for a moment that being your reality, your daily wake-up call? Knowing that no matter what you're going through, there is an expectation that you show up and show up ready and be better than everybody else in the room. It is often said that pressure busts pipes, but I'm inclined to believe that pressure produces precious stones, such as diamonds. And though the reality of being Black in America is hard, I'm thankful for the diamonds that it produces. Diamonds such as Dr. King and Harriet Tubman and HBCUs and leaders such as Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. So now what? How do we come together when we've been torn apart, especially after the last 4 years? My favorite story is one of a man who fell ill on the road. The road was dangerous. The road had a lot of twists and turns. And it was often warned that people should not travel this road alone. A man came by the road. A man fell ill on this road. And a man came by the road and saw him from afar off and did not touch him. He kept walking. Another man came by and saw this man hurt on the road, and he too kept walking. A third man came by and saw the man ill on the road. He was not of the same race as this man, and culture would state that he should not help him because they weren't of the same race. But he did anyway. Not only did he help the man, but he paid for the man to be taken care of even after he left. I know that he thought for a second, what would happen if I helped this man? What would happen if somebody caught me helping this man? What would they do to me if they saw me being of service to this man? I believe the even better question that he asked himself that day was, what will happen if I don't help this man? When we think about social justice, all it really is equality. So I challenge you all today, when you see injustice, to do something, to say something, to not just walk by as if you don't see it, as they did this man on the road, to not feed into it because it seems like the popular thing to do. Dr. King always questioned, what are we doing for others? And that is the same question that I ask you all today. What are you doing for somebody else? What are you doing to help all Americans obtain social justice? Are you just watching the news reports thinking that's a shame? Are you quietly sitting around your friends and talking and sending messages and text messages and memes? Are you publicly speaking out against the social injustices? Are we challenging family members and friends at the dinner table? What role will you take on in this fight? Or will you continue to be like those men who walked past that man in the road? So when do we start? In 1963, Dr. King spoke about the urgency of now. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to create opportunities for us to work together. Now is the time to ensure that America does not return to business as usual. We will never have peace until we are all free. We will, when we realize that our peace is tied to the peace of our community, that our freedom is tied to the freedom of everyone, we will never reach that promised land if there is a group of people who will never have the opportunity to live as everyone else does. Dr. King once said that we will never be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Righteousness is simply right living. What is right? Equality is right. What is right? Love is right. What is right? Peace is right. What is right? Freedom is right. What is right? That America keeps its word. What is right? That we all have a chance to be successful. What is right? Ask yourself that question. Not what we've been taught throughout the years, but really take inventory of yourself. Tell me what is right. Change is going to take a collective effort. Social justice is going to take a collective effort. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in 2021 should be the reality for all people. People often say we have come a long way. I challenge that thought today, though. We have come some of the way. If we are ever going to reach that promised land that Dr. King spoke of, we are going to have to do it moving together in unity. The truth of the matter is that we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish together as fools. The choice is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah Ashley Andrews, for those wonderful words of wisdom. I guess we have a couple more minutes. If we're live streaming, Ms. Robbins, do we have time for questions or?
We do have the question and answer Google Doc that is out there. So if anyone would like to submit questions to that Google Doc that was emailed out to you, you are more than welcome to go ahead and do that. And we'll be on the questions and we'll be able to ask them once they pop through. So we can feel free to take them if necessary.
Okay. All right. Well, does anyone on the panel have any?
I think we have a little bit of time while we're waiting for questions to come in. We do have a video that was put together by Pendale, and I Have a Dream speech that we can share. So I'm going to right now cue that video up, and we will play that as we give some time for questions to come in. So.
I have a dream that people will all be seen in the same way, no matter what the color of their skin is, and POC will feel as safe and protected as everyone else. I have a dream the color of our skin will be seen but not judged, our voices will be heard but not silenced, and our dreams will be alive.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
I dream that there will be equality and everyone will be treated the same.
I have a dream that everybody get treated equally.
I have a dream for everyone to be treated equally, all races, religions, and gender.
We have a dream that everyone has equal rights.
And everyone is counted as equal.
We don't see anyone different. We admire people's uniqueness.
We appreciate everyone's ability.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
We have a dream that everyone is treated equally and has the same opportunities and chances.
I have a dream that people can love who they want to love despite their sexual identity, race, or gender, including their religion and beliefs in politics.
I have a dream that people will be more accepting of each other.
I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream.
I have a dream that we can come together as a country and work together despite our differences.
I have a dream that people won't be judged for their race, gender, who they like, or religion.
I have a dream that one day people won't be discriminated just because of the color of their skin, and people will all be treated fairly and equally in the community.
I have a dream that my country will have more economic opportunities.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
I have a dream that people will stop being judged by the color of their skin, their gender, and who they love.
My dream for this nation is I want equal rights for people of color and people that are part of the LGBT community.
I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
I have a dream that people will stop being racist in this country and won't treat people unfairly because of their race.
I have a dream that here in America, racism will be fully abolished and that people can agree to disagree and instead of arguing.
I have a dream that racism will end.
I have a dream that everybody, no matter what color, has the same privilege and same rights.
I have a dream that all presidents should be fair and end injustice.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
MLK had a dream, well, I have a plan, that black people won't be afraid of the Ku Klux Klan. We shall march to be free, because we have American creed, the kind of creed that you believe, succeed, and achieve. Let America be America again. Like Langston Hughes said, we should join hands and be friends, because all of us are equal, and we will not have a sequel of the arts past, because we waited too long to say free at last.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at
Okay, and we're back, and we're going to turn it over to Miss Kenny and Miss Robbins, I believe, have some of the questions from the audience.
All right, so we have a few questions for you, Sarah Ashley. The first one is, can you please talk about the phrase unapologetic and what it means to you?
The phrase unapologetic, it means simply, really, without apology, bold. Like, I mean this. And I think a lot of times we tiptoe through things instead of just being honest about how we feel about it. And so when I think about the word unapologetic, it means that I said what I said kind of in a bold manner.
Awesome. All right.
The next question, if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Figure go back and forth if trying to make it way through. Was Martin Luther King Jr.'s plan to make this much of a great impact on the world?
I don't think this was his plan, but I think that he had a purpose. And I think that his purpose was to impact the world in the way that he did. I think that when he started his journey, nobody could really think that it would be this large or this grand, or that, you know, all these years later, I think he would have turned 93, I believe. All these years later, we would still be celebrating what he did, the impact that he made, and still celebrating his legacy till this day. And we got to remember, he was young. Like, we would, you know, categorize him now, he would be like a millennial. So I don't think that in his mind he could fathom all of this, but I know that he knew that he had a purpose.
Awesome. All right. So what do you think are some concrete examples of what kids like us can do every day to make a difference?
The biggest lesson that I teach kids when I do my school visits is that to be kind. I think that's the biggest thing that kids can do on a daily basis. Be kind. When I say be kind, I mean, hold the door for the person behind you. If somebody drops something, help them pick it up. If somebody is struggling, help them. Smile, speak. All those things are the little small things that we can do on a daily basis that will have an impact on somebody's life. Reaching out to people, seeing if they're okay. All those things matter. But being kind is something that we can do on a daily basis.
Awesome.
That probably goes with this. The same question kind of is, how do we begin making change while the country is so polarized?
Start where you are with what you have and who you're around, right? I think that it starts with speaking up and starts with standing up. And so no matter where you are, no matter what's going on in the country, like, look what we're doing today. This is a part of it. You know, we don't know what will happen in the next few days before the inauguration or what will happen, but we're doing our part today. In a little bit, I'll be going to a shelter to give back some coats and stuff. So, like, you can start where you are with your community of friends, with your community in your family, your neighborhood, and start there.
Awesome. Are there any current authors or activists that you feel is important for people to be aware of? Like, you know, people that maybe they can follow on social media or read their books?
Yep. So I follow a few people on social media. Tamika Mallory is one of the people I follow on social media. Latasha Brown, who is the head of Black Voters Matter. She's somebody that I follow on Instagram. There are a lot of local people too in Philadelphia. Pastor Carl Day, myself. It's so many people I could name. I'm kind of forgetting right now. Ryan Harris, who does a lot of good work. Cancer Owl, who does a lot of good work in the city. All these people that locally who don't necessarily have that big platform, but are actually doing a great work. I'm actually trying to reach. Give me 1 second. I just want to reach and get the author of the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. Give me 1 second.
Okay. As she's doing that, another good one to follow is also Mark Lamont Hill, who's a Philadelphia native as well, that you can follow on social media and does a lot of activist work too.
Yep, I was going to say him. He's dope. Uncle Bobby's Cafe. So her name is Dr. Rita Walker, and she has the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health.
Okay. Awesome. All right.
Next question is, how did you respond to racism as a child, like when you were discriminated against at school?
So I really responded by answering their questions. And I often say, I wish I can go back and challenge, what they were doing. I don't even remember if I told my parents. I had to ask my parents that the other day, like, did y'all know that they did that to us? So I don't think that I did anything in the moment, but I think the work I do now is in honor of that little girl who didn't speak up or was afraid to speak up, because now I'm not. And so to answer your question, back then I didn't do anything because honestly, I didn't even know that it was wrong. Right? I was a kid. They pulled me out of the classroom and put me in the office and asked me questions. I thought that was what they did to everybody, but it was not. So.
Awesome. So we have another question. It says, how could the topic of social justice be brought up in a school environment? Like, what do you think are some strategies in order to bring up social justice within the school?
I think it is important that we create safe spaces for these conversations to be developed. And I think that we need to start having these unrestricted conversations, because social justice, that's just isn't about race. It's about equality for all people, right? It's about equality in marriage, equality and equal rights for everybody. So I think that when we create safe spaces for us to be able to share collectively, then these conversations can happen and change can take place. But I think that it starts with creating a safe space and asking a simple question, like, what do you think about blank? And then allow the conversation to go from there.
I think there's two more questions, but I'm going to join them together because they are very much related. We're still just kids. I feel like I won't be able to do as much as adults can. What are some things that will make a bigger difference? And the second one is, how can I help make sure that everyone is treated equally? To me, they kind of go hand in hand.
So let me say this. People love a kids movement, right? People will get behind a kids movement before anybody else. So never despise your youth. Never think that I'm too young to do anything, right? Great change makers start where they are with what they have. So your age is actually a benefit. So never think because you're a child that nobody will listen to you, or that you won't be able to make a big impact. You'll make a greater impact being young than you will once you get older. And don't waste time. Like, I think that a lot of times we want to wait till we get this or wait till we get that, or I gotta wait till I get older. No, you can make a great impact where you are, and it's resources all around you. Use your teachers, use the school counselors, use your climate control people, use all these people that are around you that may have more resources that can help with your idea. But never think that because you're a kid that you can't do something. I wish I would have started doing what I do a lot earlier, right? I kind of pour into my nephew to get him to start thinking about giving back and all these things at his age, because I know that he will have a greater impact. So my message then to you is that you're not too young to start with what you have. Whatever your idea is, start it, plan it out, write it, give it to somebody to help you with, and keep it moving from there. And what can we do? We can make campaigns. That's a question that you have to ask yourself. What can I do? What do you see that the problem is? All great leaders answer a problem, right? They try to answer a problem. So whatever you see the problem is, I saw that mental health was a problem in the Black community. So I created a nonprofit that educates on mental wellness. So whatever the problem is that is on your heart that you want to fix, that's what you need to be doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah Ashley. And if people want to follow you, what is your Instagram handle, or how can they kind of get in contact with you in the future?
My Instagram handle is I Run Dare 2 Hope. So I Run Dare to Hope. That's my Instagram handle.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. At this time, we are going to begin to start going into our breakout sessions, and your breakout sessions have been emailed to you as well. So if you just click on the Google Meet link, you will go into your breakout sessions until about 11:10, and then you will join back to our ending session with our second guest speaker. All right. So I look forward to seeing you guys in about 40 minutes.